Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live right here on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have literally been a part of our journey from day one. We wouldn't be here without them. So thank you, Folgers. We love you. We appreciate you. Also, much gratitude and respect for our other sponsor, Justin Snicker, a.k.a. Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, who is the voice and music that you hear on our intro and outro. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found anywhere that you stream great music. Check him out. After all, it's spooky month, and he's got a lot of great stuff coming out. Also, huge thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of our artwork on the Outer Realm. So big thank you to Steve. Tonight, the Outer Realm welcomes Phil and Julia Siracusa, fellow UPRN hosts of the show, the Horsefly Chronicles. And they're going to be discussing their experiences living in a haunted house and everything that goes with it. So in order to partake, guys, you know the drill. Let's go through where you can find our chat rooms. Pretty much habitual here on the realm. We've got UFO Gods and Extraterrestrial on YouTube. We've got the Outer Realm. We've got UFO Paranormal Radio. Then we're getting over to Facebook. So we're looking at Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover, Canada's Most Haunted, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, United Public Radio, and news on the flip side. So I see people are chiming in. Kira, Tamara, Wayne. Woo-hoo.
Hello. Hi, Mike.
I know, Mike. Yeah. So hey, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
That kind of a day. Not see my very first Instagram post where I thought I'd go terrorize a village. Pretty much been my whole day.
I saw that and I'm like, I'll just ask her when I see her because I love that post. I love that one. But yeah,
started early, but I just wake up to chaos and
it's a crazy month.
Messages or emails, and it's just like, oh, it's gonna be one of those kind of days.
I've been yawning all week.
You've been under the weather.
I know, but I think I know I've been sick, but I think it's also the weather. Like I think it's that as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I know, and I'm tired because we had that big, well, not big, but the celebration for my daughter's 25th. But it's like I can't say it's big because it wasn't big, but it's been busy. But and my first outing in a public place with a bunch of people. Yes. I know you're listening thinking, what the hell? But that's the truth.
It is. It's a thing.
That's what happens when you have a child with low immune system.
Hey, Marisol. I know.
Hello, Marisol. How's the weather there? But
better than here, I imagine.
Well, I would think so.
But we have two great guests on tonight. They're fellow hosts here at the network, which is awesome. So do you want to give them a little intro?
Absolutely. From Pennsylvania, right? PA both have experienced the paranormal in their own lives before they found each other and married each other. Yes, they are married. She is an empath, sensitive, and paranormal researcher. He is an author, spiritual advisor, and a paranormal researcher. Together, together, they live in a haunted home and have had several paranormal experiences there, as well as helping families with their own hauntings. Hosts here on UPRN, please welcome Phil and Julia Siracusa.
We're just waiting.
to the show. We're just waiting for them to
We're just
come on.
waiting.
I love her. Hello, Samantha.
Hello, Samantha. Back for more, are you?
On
Glutton for
the
punishment,
big
yes.
screen over that fireplace. Like, how bright is it in here? I got the lights lowered because of your screenshot.
Yeah,
That's
don't
my
do that.
niece. But oh my
Yeah, this is
gosh, I
good.
just saw that screenshot. I'm like, what? It's so bright. My screen's so dark.
Do you know how many messages I got today? People go, "Oh, I love that show last night.
Oh my
Why don't you
gosh,
do more
including
Q&As?" I'm like,
yeah,
okay. So we're
including our
working
own
on it.
Hamilton. Sorry.
Everybody's back for more. It's true. Oh, he
Yeah,
was one of them. He was one of
he
them.
was. Yes, he
And
was.
there was a few more, and I'm like, okay. So that's why I messaged Amelia today. All right, beginning of the year, we're gonna have to sit down and plan at least for a few months
We're
worth.
going to do that.
The
Yeah,
first half a year, yeah, we'll try to
it's
bring
hard. I
you. Hey,
can't.
Catherine, we'll try
Yeah,
to bring
it's
you
hard.
guys a few more. It just makes it really hard because we've got a really long list of people waiting to come on, and we book so many months in advance. I mean, I could book straight through into March or April right now.
Yeah.
There's that many people.
Yeah,
A
Michelle
whole
has
bunch.
crossed us off to fit people
It's
in.
true.
We've actually had ourselves booked for once or twice a
True.
month. And she's like, okay, you know that day that we're on, you need
It's
to
true.
change that because I got so-and-so coming on. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
But
it's
we do
true.
want to make you guys happy as well. It's a lot of fun. We really do enjoy
we
it
do.
because we get to interact with you and talk to you more.
Oh, it's
So
true.
yeah.
It's true.
But
It's just
tonight will be
it's a
fun too
whole
because we're in the
different
same
thing.
field.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing, because
Yeah.
it's just it really is just like hanging out and just sharing stories and well, thanks, Tamara.
Aw.
Yeah,
Our third host. Yes.
yeah.
Yes, Tamara's our
So-
third host.
So
Yes.
I think that we owe it to all of you, of course. We love to bring it to you guys. We also like to bring you guys a lot of a blend of different things. And I can
Yes.
tell you, oh my goodness, there's a lot of really great guests coming up in the next few months. Some new
gosh.
faces that you haven't seen and some favorites. So,
Yeah,
next
I've been
week
so
will be
busy
some
I didn't
favorites.
even notice was on next week, Michelle. Sorry.
That's okay. I got it.
Yeah, no, I know it's there in my book, but I mean, I haven't looked
Yeah.
because I've been so busy. And today I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't remember. I have to really look that up because I have to get their promos going.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, that's how
It'll
busy
work.
it is.
It'll work.
Yeah.
So here we go. Well, you'll find out tonight after the
Yes.
show who's on next week as well.
Yes.
So here we go. Phil and Julia. Woo!
Hello. How are you? Good to see you guys.
Good to see both of you.
Thanks for
Thank
having
Good to
us.
see you guys. Look at those smiles.
I know. You're actually
You
excited
can
to be here. This
relax.
is really good.
Feel
You can
so
relax. This is your network. You can relax.
Yes.
good not to be in charge.
It's different, isn't it? It's really tough sometimes. It's not so bad when you're doing an interview for somebody else, but
Yeah.
when it's your soundboard, you're kind of like,
It's bizarre, right?
Yeah.
That's why I have no access to the soundboard. Otherwise, we cut each other off in the comments. So
it's true.
it's
have a
better this way. Yeah.
We have a system and it
Yeah.
works. So this is
Yep.
good. But
I hear ya.
yeah. So thank you for joining us. Your story does go back, quite a distance. I'm going to let you guys just take it. I mean, I like to start off with humble beginnings.
both
How
of you,
did all
yeah.
of this come about and so on, and the path that led you to pretty much where you are now. So whichever one of you wants to take it, give it a start and we'll jump in.
Well, I'll say that mysteriously in life, everything happens for a reason. And you don't know the reason up until you look back at the puzzle of your life and see why all those pieces were put together. And this is a story of the Horsefly Chronicles and the life that Julia and I and our family live. And, for those that question, which I questioned many of years, the existence of entities or ghosts or demons, I was a skeptic myself in a lot of areas, thinking it's just the mind. But clearly, these things do exist. And sometimes you don't know what to actually experience firsthand. And that's where this whole story begins. Julie and I, we always say that, I found this house on Zillow in 2009, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But no, you see, the house
For
found us
13
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
It's usually how it
because
works.
I seen this house on Zillow and I fell in love with it. And then I called a real estate agent, Wackert, I think it was, and it was under contract. And it's like, wow, such a good price. And all right, let's move on. I'll never forget that. It was a Saturday morning, and then we went out looking for other homes, right? We
Yeah,
made
for a
appointments.
while.
And we
Did-
found a house that we were on the border of
Yeah.
that we liked. It was owned by a priest,
Yeah,
right?
it was a
That
really
might have been your best bet.
but then they
I
went
know.
here,
In
right?
hindsight.
But you know what's funny now? You see what's funny about that is
But
God
you didn't like the stairs.
and the devil were at hand here, because I believe now that I'm living this life, God was saying, take this house, the priest, it was suitable for the stairs were steep, but it was still a nice looking home and it was good for us. And,
Mhm.
we didn't go with it. Why? Because the stairs?
You didn't like the stairs. He's got like this thing.
Yeah, the stairs were
Yeah.
very steep. Like it was kind of an
That
old
was a
house,
big
but a
problem.
It gives you
beautiful home.
vertigo. It gives you like
But-
vertigo, and then you as a parent,
I
you'd
got
be
to think
afraid
about
for
falling
your
downstairs.
you'd
I
be
think-
afraid for your kids too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that we were just so drawn to this house. We kept coming back to it for some reason.
So we didn't get the priest house, and we went on a mission for a month
Yeah.
looking at other homes in the state of Pennsylvania. And I'm at work one day in New Jersey,
Mhm.
and my wife calls me up and she goes, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" She goes, "Remember that house that was on the contract that you really like?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "It's out of contract." And I says,
Crazy.
"No way."
Yeah.
And
And then I went to go see it first, and I was just like, I don't know. I was just really drawn to this house. I mean, of course, it was a beautiful house, but it had a lot of. It was kind of smaller than what we were living in, to be honest. It's just it was something about the house that I was. Now that I know now, I was drawn to it more than anything else.
Being a
Mhm.
sensitive, yeah. Did they give you any information on? I don't know if you have to disclose in your state that it's haunted.
well, no, it wasn't labeled as a haunted house
Yeah.
Okay.
because no one died in the home. It was built in 1996 and in a state neighborhood, so it wasn't,
Right.
Okay.
nothing that. But what I
But-
did find, when I seen the house on the second visit, I remember this one room in the basement, and it was painted this ugly red.
Right behind us.
Yeah. It was just like this. Well, it shouldn't have been. I don't know. And he had
This when we left.
he had an exercise machine in there, but when I was in the room alone, I felt off center, like my
Yeah.
equilibrium balance was off. But I was so excited about the finished basement, and the home was beautiful that I really
It
wanted
had
it.
everything we were looking for.
And then we sat down with the real estate agent upstairs. I'm signing, to move forward. And I remember when I had the inspector come here, the homeowner, the wife, was just so miserable. And I couldn't understand why. She had this mean look on her.
Yeah.
And when I was watching the inspector, she'd follow me with this mean look. And I was like, you live in a beautiful neighborhood. You're selling your home. Why? I'm saying to myself, what's the problem?
That was the only thing that we really dealt with that was in a negative way.
Well, then we went to the closing,
They
and
were-
in the closing, they really didn't look at us.
Yeah, that they were
You're
horrible.
kidding.
They
No
were
eye
Yeah.
contact, nothing.
No red flag
Did-
there.
Did you ever did you ever
Yeah.
find out why?
No, the closing was awkward when they don't look and talk to you. And the guy
Well-
had a real attitude with us, so
Yeah.
whatever.
There was no reason. I mean, now that we think about it, it could have.
There could be a million reasons now that we
been
look
the
back.
house. I mean,
Could have
But,
been
um,
attachments.
very
Yeah.
angry and. Just
Yeah,
not
they were
nice.
bitter. And then I remember a month later, part of their closing check, because I guess they didn't forward to the new address yet, and I tried to reach out to them, came to this home, and I tried to reach out to them. They wouldn't accept my phone call. That's part of your closing check. It's as if, here's your keys, your problem, we're done, goodbye.
That's really
Sure.
how it was.
That's what
It's
it felt
different.
like.
It's different now. I mean, in a lot of places in Canada, you need to disclose
But there
If
was
I
it-
wasn't sure
even
about
if it's a
Canada,
paranormal
really.
activity, if it's
But
haunted,
yeah.
you have to
Well,
disclose
that's
it.
what we've been told now. Like, if you don't have someone that actually died on the property, you don't have to. I mean, maybe to
maybe
them,
they
they
didn't
didn't
know what was
know.
going on.
Yeah, I don't think that
Hmm.
they really knew what was going on.
They
Uh-huh.
just
But I
knew
do
there was something
think
not right.
exactly.
Right.
They
Right.
were financially broke
Mhm.
in a beautiful neighborhood, and they weren't happy.
Mhm.
And I guess I can understand a lot of that now. But
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
first
Yeah,
6
well,
months,
2020 looking back, right?
yeah, this is
Yeah.
2010, and the first 6 months, quite frankly, were great. Kids were loving it. Everybody had their own bedrooms. Were excited, and
That's a
we owned this
beautiful home.
beautiful home.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you, the listener out there, whether we believe or choose not to believe and that these things are possible, I got to tell you that it's not just a matter of seeing something with your eyes to believe it.
Mhm.
These things can take out you financially, medically, mentally, and they can isolate you from friends, cousins, relatives, family, and the most mysterious ways. We try to bring logic and explanation and science behind everything, but
Yeah.
sometimes there is no science and logic into this world of the unknown. It just is what it is, and these things do exist.
Mm.
And the first 6 months here were perfect. Happy
Mhm.
family, just came from another house that was really nice, and everything was great.
Mhm.
But then, the negative energy started.
A lot of fighting, and constant banging when there was the kids were quiet in their rooms, and
Mhm.
it's just,
No reason for it, just making its presence known slowly. It's funny because when you say, putting everybody at odds, I always call it the game of divide and conquer. Isolating you so there's nobody to support you, so you feel alone.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they slowly start just doing little things to make you crazy, put you at odds with one another, enhance depression, enhance anxiety. Maybe if you have an addictive personality, that's where they're gonna play on their weaknesses,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times people don't see it coming.
No.
It happens
You know
so
what's interesting?
gradually.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're saying that. So what did happen the first 6 months, but this wasn't ghostly. I was off on the weekends from work, and I said to my wife, I can't sit still. I just
Yeah.
have this anxiety. I have to get out. I
Mm.
can't sit still in this home. I don't understand. What is it with me? And I went, joined the gym. I would come back home and feel the anxiety again. Like it
Mm.
was like this energy, but not a good energy. It was like this,
You didn't feel
look,
right.
you didn't feel right. Like I just couldn't control it. It was very hard. And that did happen right away.
Mm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if I walked into this other atmosphere of energy.
Was it the
Mm.
whole home,
Realizing
like the
that,
entire
yeah,
home, Phil, or was it like
the home,
particular rooms or
the
places
entire
that were
home,
more prevalent?
Mm.
the
Entire
entire
home.
home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was like foreboding.
Yeah. See, when I worked during the week, I worked some long hours, so I wasn't feeling it. But on the weekends, I couldn't sit still in this house. It was like making me feel like anxious and
Mm.
worried about things I shouldn't even be worried about.
Yeah.
And
And what about your sleep? Like you felt really anxious and wired the whole time you're up, but did you feel that way? Like, did you have any sort of sleep problems as well, or were you at least able to
yeah, well,
get
that's when
some rest?
Tylenol PM kicks in.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. We were taking that for,
Tylenol PM kicks in at that point.
yeah. Yeah, down for the
Yeah.
count.
Because I'm
Right.
not thinking that I bought a haunted house. I mean,
Sure.
you see the neighborhood, he's like, it's not haunted. And
Mhm.
but then my son,
our
my
oldest
oldest
son.
son,
He was
Brandon,
11 when we moved in.
he wanted his own
Mhm.
private room in the basement. So we
Mm,
gave him the room. That was that red room.
that's
He
very
Mhm.
he loved
haunting
it.
in Connecticut.
Yeah, and he wanted it. And then he would tell
Wow.
me
Yeah.
the toys were going off by themselves, going off and on. And then I says, look, the last thing I want to hear after an investment is that toys are
Mm.
going on and off. I don't want to
But
hear
how
it.
did you react to that? Because I mean, I
I
know in my
reacted like,
household, my father was like, no. My
You know,
mother was a believer. My father, the house could have come down and he'd have a logical reason for it.
I think that
Mhm.
he was a believer, but at the time he was just things.
I was so focused with work and making money
Yeah.
and the home that
Mm.
we just bought, and I had that excitement, and then I didn't want to hear the toys. I just didn't want to believe.
Mm.
And I was like, maybe. And I remember saying to Brandon, maybe you're banging into them. You're kicking
Yeah.
into them in the middle of the night.
And he said no.
Yeah.
And he
You
says,
think it
no,
was
no.
out of fear because you couldn't see what was going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, these things, however they're labeled as, right? They lay dormant. And what I believe now, and I could testify to, is what they do is they learn the family and our habits
Yeah.
and our dislikes and our hatred and our goodness and our pain. And after they start to learn the family, each person, then they know how to attack each person individually
Yeah.
on their own territory through a mental. This thing is it was something that you felt like you weren't alone, that you'd being watched, but obviously nothing was there that you could see that was watching you. It's like being in a shark tank, but there's no sharks. Only the mind sees the sharks.
Yeah.
You feel unprotected and you don't know why. And you try to dismiss all that with life, right? Kids going to soccer, one kid's in basketball, and you go to work, and you know, you try to dismiss everything in life. It's, oh, come on, it's just my mind playing
It's
tricks
easy,
on me,
yeah.
you know?
It's easy when you're busy too, because you're not paying attention as much, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so years went on. I mean, 2011, we didn't have any ghost activity,
No.
right?
When did
Negative energy,
a
maybe
lot of arguing and fighting started.
but at this point now, and this is important for everybody to listen to this, that there was nothing visible yet.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
learning the family. 2011 was fine. Work was good. You know, he was saying a little bit odds and ends with the things, but then he got sick
Yeah, he
in
got
the basement,
what was it?
pancreatitis.
Yes. And
Oh, wow.
11 years old, you know, I
That's
went
young.
to the hospital, and they're like, I said, well, if he was doing something, like he was had a drink with or whatever, he's like, nah. And the doctor's like, nope, 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 not at 11. So it was just really weird. And then as soon as we got him out of that room, we actually turned this room into his bedroom.
Yeah, we got him out of the basement. Something told me get him out of the basement.
He was all right.
And then he started getting better. And I'm like, look
See
at
that?
this.
Wow.
And I'm like, look at this. So the room was what? A storage room? No, what did we use after that? Like storage?
I don't know. Yeah, we got.
Right?
I don't
We
remember.
didn't do anything.
Really do anything.
I think we used storage.
Maybe
in there.
just storage junk.
And then time went on, and we're living our life, and he's getting better, thankfully.
Okay. And what did you tell yourself, Phil, at that point? Julia, what did you guys tell yourself when here we move him and he's getting better? Were you thinking like a parent saying, oh, it must have been damp and he's just not feeling well, and now he's better up here? Were you dismissing it, or were you looking into it?
I wasn't looking into paranormal.
No.
I was just thinking that, okay, he's getting better.
Good. That's what you do as a mom, right?
Yeah. I wasn't thinking anything paranormal at that time.
Okay.
No, it's probably one of the last things that people think about. You don't even know, the average person doesn't even know what signs to look for, let alone say there's something going on. This is why so much of this stuff goes undetected, because if you're not versed in the field, you've got no idea. It's a learning curve, and there's a lot of damage that can be done before that light goes off, and like something is not right on a whole other level.
Yeah. I was curious because they both had paranormal experiences growing up, if that, popped up at all. Because for me, it comes up all the time. So that's why I was curious.
You guys have had paranormal experiences before moving into the house?
Yes.
Nothing like separately. What's in this home. Nothing like, little ghostly things. In 2009, we were renting another house in Pennsylvania. Zero paranormal activity. Zero. Perfect life, perfect family, perfect job, perfect everything. Zero. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
But you see now, I tell people that they're way ahead of us, meaning the other side, way ahead of us. And it's as if they throw out the fishing line and reel us in. And if you have a little bit of an intent or openness to understanding that side, or willingness, sort of like playing like a Ouija board or using any kind of device with an intent, right? They know that. And when they see that opening, they know when they're going to come in, and that's exactly what happened. 2012, I don't believe anything happened. It was then 2013 is when things started happening. 3 years later, living in the home, and I remember here was the first incident.
Picture?
Well, we had a picture in the living room, and the kids were fighting, and it was just a bad time. I don't know what it was. Maybe, and then I took the picture out in the backyard with my kids. I'm breaking it.
We had a picture on the wall. It was really, really nice. I think it was like Twin Towers or something.
No, it was like these old homes that light up when you plug it in. One of those plug-in
okay,
pictures.
right.
Yeah,
And it would
yeah,
light
that
up.
was a big thing then. It was a big
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And I loved this picture. And I don't know if it was because I was really pissed. I was really upset. I don't know if it's because of something in the house that was making me like, feel a certain
Agitated.
way,
Yeah.
or but I was really mad. He just grabbed it.
I went out in the backyard with my kids. Now, here's how these things work, meaning the entities.
Yeah.
They'll make you do things that you don't realize what's happening when it's happening. And I'm out there with a hammer with my
Excuse
kids
me, sorry.
smashing the picture. Because I thought the
Thank
picture
you.
was holding this negative energy in the home.
I would think that too. That would
Yeah.
come to my mind as well, having experienced things, right? Even the mind, like the most minute from a horror film watching on TV, you would think, oh, there's something in that picture, take it out of the house. And then what happened?
Yeah, it was a mystery picture. So we broke it. My wife is mad at us. We're getting yelled at, and we're still breaking the picture.
Yeah, but she could be
You just got to picture that.
force prompted. You don't know that something didn't make her react that way on purpose to cause that friction.
Yes. That's exactly what was happening.
Yeah, but you didn't know that at the time, right?
You know that. Oh, trickery, right?
Yeah.
And a few weeks went by, and we're in New Jersey. I think we were Christmas shopping, and then you says we're in Perkins, and boy, I ordered some good pancakes too. And my wife goes,
I have a good recipe for that, Julia.
She says, I forgot the stove on.
Oh,
I says, what? And now we're in New Jersey. I'm like, oh no, kids are in school. I said, so there goes the pancakes. I can't eat them. We take off, and I'm rushing to get home, cross the bridge.
Yeah,
and then
because you got a ways to go here.
I ran to the house.
And the house was smoked out. But what was mysterious was
the flame was off.
The flame is off.
It wasn't the stove. It wasn't like a real, like the new modern stoves where it kind of like shuts itself off. It's not like that. You have to physically shut it off.
That's right.
Shut itself.
Right.
And it was off. So that was kind of weird.
So something turned the stove off, which I don't even know if I'm thankful about that. I mean,
no, in hindsight, let her go. Yeah, but then they just would have followed you to a new home because you destroyed their home, right? It's like, we'll fix you.
I personally think that this house was sitting here waiting for us, this type of family who has gifts and who's open, and it was just waiting for the perfect family. And
so the stove turned off, the house is smoked out. We get over it, and then about a week later, I'm up 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning, get ready to go to work, and I see this black shadow the size of a cantaloupe in the kitchen. Now, I think it's my eyes, and then I think it's the bulbs. And I'm looking, this thing is going from the kitchen ceiling to the living room ceiling, down the wall, down the floor, and it's really, really fast. And I'm looking all around like, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not really up all the way. And it's bouncing around. Well, I'll tell you that that was the start of it right there. It knew, it waited, it watched, and it had me.
Well, it knew you were aware of it, and that's all it needed. See, it's like game on, right? Gigs up. Now you know.
Yeah, they like to play.
There's no reason to hide anymore.
Yes. Wow, you just hit it right on the head. This gave me chills.
Yeah, but it's because it's really how it works. Once that acknowledgement gets made, acknowledgement is empowerment. I say it all the time. Now this thing's like, okay, now we're gonna dance.
It's like dealing with a narcissist.
It
really is. That's the profile. Yeah.
So
and, that was game on. From that point on, I told my wife, and I remember telling coworkers at that day we went to the diner for breakfast. I'm like, there's something in my house. Something is. So one of them said, maybe it's feng shui. Maybe the house is off center, the way the house is built.
Right.
Yeah. Did they believe you?
Oh yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
important
half the
because that
battle.
can make or break your fight, right? When you're not believed by people closest to you.
That's the divide and
So
conquer thing.
but they believed him. How did they react?
You know how they reacted? Well, one of them said it's feng shui. The house has to
Yeah.
be off-centered from everything you're telling us. And
Interesting. Yeah.
he used to go to China and learn all this stuff that they
Yes.
learn out there about that. And I says, okay, well, what do I do? He goes, move, because if it's off-centered, it's really nothing that you can do unless you're going to rebuild different things in the home, restructure it.
Yeah.
So
Jimmy's saying hi.
obviously
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
Hey, Jimmy.
But now you see, now here's the kicker of this whole story. Another coworker looks at me at the diner and he goes, write a book. Tell the world.
Yeah.
I said, come on, I'm not writing no book. Tell the world
I
what?
have that book. I have that book. Yes.
I says, what? Tell the world. I mean, we had a corporate job. We're all making good money. I was like, tell the world there's a ghost in my house. He's like, yes, do it. You know what happened? You know what happened? I'm going to tell you. We made plans, me, and these were my friends and my coworkers. And in Westfield, New Jersey, he says, you come to my house, you're gonna narrate and we're gonna record you, and then we're gonna get this down into a story and put it out there for people to know that this stuff is real. Well, we meet on a Saturday in Cranford, New Jersey. We're sitting on the back deck, and I told my two friends, my coworkers, I says, you know what? I don't feel right about this. And I said, this thing might try to pull us apart. And they're like, no, come on. It's not going to pull us apart. Okay. I'm starting to tell them what's going on in my home, and they're recording it. I actually got this recorded too. And one's a video camera, one's a cassette recorder. And then all of a sudden, one of my friends, the coworker, says, I see my aunt. And I'm like, what? There's nobody here but us. He's no, she died, but she's here. And he goes, continue. And then the other coworker, as I'm telling the story, he goes, my wife's sister is here.
What?
But she died in a plane crash. And now I'm bugging out. And I'm like, what's going on here?
So
No kidding.
do you think this entity is mimicking these people, or do you think this was really their loved ones coming through timing?
This was the devil's game.
Okay, so mimic, yeah.
My friend goes in the house to his wife and goes, your sister's outside. And she starts yelling at him. My sister died. Don't you ever, he says, come outside. And then he grabs this big cross and he puts the cross up on the deck. And she's yelling at him. She goes, well, I don't see anything. Don't tell me. And then something in my mind is telling them, play the song Ave Maria. Now, I don't know why. It's a beautiful song. But I don't know why. Something's telling me. It's
all about protection. Yeah.
And so they play the song Ave Maria. And now, at the same time, their grandmother's coming through. And then the uncle's coming through.
Crazy.
And he's insisting. He's like, my uncle is here. And he's insisting, and I don't see it. But what I do feel is this oppression. I feel this.
The weight.
This weight, yes.
Yeah, the weight,
And
the
I feel
heaviness.
and I'm saying in my mind, I think we just opened up Pandora's box. And,
oh, shit.
But because there's no reason for them to hide anything now. They can go full on. And
so,
divide and conquer, right?
And conquer and communication. Yeah.
So it gets funny and it gets more twisting and interesting. We left off that night, we stopped what we were doing and we thought about if we wanted to continue it. We decided not to continue with this. And then my coworker one day says, like a month later, come on, let's just finish it. Let's get this book out there. I'm like, all right, I don't want to do it, but he's like, come on. So I go back to New Jersey and we're recording again. And then one of the coworkers says, you know what? I can't handle it no more. Something is not right here. I'm stopping. I'm out. Something's not right. I'm seeing my uncle again, and my uncle's dead. So he pulls out. So we stopped the recording. And then a week later, my friend says, I put an ad on Craigslist for a psychic. And now I'm shaking my head. I'm like, what? You put an ad on Craigslist for what? He goes, so she could tell us what's going on in the house, what's happening around my house. So he does just that. And as funny as it may seem, an ad on Craigslist for a psychic happened to be a very good psychic. She comes aboard, she meets with us in New Jersey, and she says she sees this dark shadow behind me, and I don't see no dark shadow, but I did explain to her what happened to me.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm going to help you guys. So she gets another friend involved to draw the cover of the book that we're starting to image, that we want to come alive, that we want to come alive. Get it? When I was trying to stop this a few times and my other friend dropped out.
Yeah.
So weeks go on and I didn't have an editor for the book. So my son Christopher comes home from school one day. He goes,
Funny.
Dad, guess what? I overheard you talking, and my school teacher's an editor. She writes books. I'm like, what a perfect match.
Synchronicities, man. Synchronicities.
I needed to get out there. Yeah.
Right?
So we go to her house in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And was she the math or science teacher?
Computer teacher.
Computer teacher. Really nice
She's
lady.
still there.
It's
Really
so
nice
funny. The
lady.
moms always know. The dads are like, what is that? Is that English? Is that
She's still. Oh, by the way, Jacob's probably going to end up getting her.
So we meet in her house, and she agrees to take on the story and edit it for us and the whole thing, right?
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now follow this. This is where it's not get wacky now. So now we have one of my coworkers. We have a psychic. We have the person who drew the picture of the book, and we have the school teacher. Okay, and one dropped out. So there was 5. Now there's 4 people, including myself. Right.
Right.
So I get a phone call one day. The psychic's name was Ashley, and this is weeks in. He goes. My coworker goes, Ashley tried to kill herself. And I was like, why? He's like, I don't know. Let's get over there. So I'm like, I'm not driving from Pennsylvania to Westfield, New Jersey. So we got her on a conference call. And she says, there's little flies coming out of her wall sockets.
Oh,
And
good Lord.
now, I says, I don't want to be rude, but are you taking anything? And she got mad at me. She says, don't be silly.
It's really difficult. As researchers have to ask that question. It's hard. You have to ask hard things, but you have to go through the process of elimination.
And at that time, I don't think you really understood
I
the
didn't
whole
understand it.
paranormal
And I didn't-
and how
yeah.
to, do that. It was just.
So now she's telling us, she doesn't know if she can handle trying to read this house anymore. She's never been to the home at this point. And there's little flies coming out of her wall socket, which quite frankly, I don't believe. I just don't believe. But what
Why
did
not?
happen, because it seems far-fetched to me. At that time.
At the time.
it seemed
Okay. That's fair.
far-fetched. Like,
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
can't imagine a fly coming out of a wall socket.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then my son's school teacher, she calls me up one day and she goes, I don't feel comfortable doing this anymore. And she's the editor. I was like, why? She says, well, ever since I got started, someone's knocking on the windows at night, and my bathroom doors opening and shutting, and I'm finding dimes. And I was like, maybe it's one of your kids.
Coins
That's my
isn't
attitude,
a bad thing.
And
Drop bills.
but what was
Yeah.
happening?
People think it's like this beautiful sign. It's not often.
What was happening was this thing. You remember in the beginning of the story when I explained that it was learning my family?
Yes.
Well, it was learning everyone that was getting involved with this as well.
Absolutely. That's part of what
What they
happens
do.
when you have that. Yeah.
What they do.
Anyone in communication with you, anyone on the phone, like phone
It doesn't
communication,
matter. And they
telling the
can,
story. Yeah.
that's right. And they can infect multiple places at one time.
Yes,
Clearly.
yes, yes.
At the same
And
time.
again, I
At
would
the
not
same
believe
time.
that
Yeah.
until I was getting those phone calls at one time, multiple phone calls. I'm like, you're
That's
all
right.
nuts. Everyone is nuts. I want nothing to do with this.
Multiple
It's
people,
scary.
multiple places at one time.
That is
Yeah.
so true.
And I understand Phil, because Phil's there, like any dad, you want to protect your family, right? You want to, and you can't see it. So now what?
And I'm still having a hard time believing what everybody's talking about. I'm like,
Yeah.
but what it was learning every person between New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So like my coworker says, you know what? I don't care. We're going to keep going on. In fact, we're going to hire I think we hired a publicist in New York City that we were paying a serious amount of money per month to get known, so that when this story comes out, the world knows that this is true. Because we want everybody to know it was true. And I was taking a lot of heat in the beginning. Oh, it's fake, it's this, it's that.
Well, it goes back to the whole thing at the Amityville horror idea. You know, it's just, if it's too much for people to take in, it's gonna go one way or the other. They're gonna believe you, or they're gonna go against you completely.
Yeah, it's
So,
a human response.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so the publicist that we're paying a lot of money, now she gets us on a radio, my first podcast ever. It was Bob Bain, The Far Side. And I drive to New Jersey, and it's me, the psychic, and my coworker, right? Now watch this. So Bob Bain, it was a pre-recorded show, and he says, tell me what's going on. So I'm explaining to him what's going on. And about then Ashley went, who was the psychic, and then Dave was saying what was happening, that he felt, who he's seeing, his wife's sister and all that. So when we were saying all this, about 40 minutes into the show now, we felt this negative weight that I can hardly handle the phone anymore. We all were like being pushed down, like this, something was like negative in there, like the atmosphere was like very heavy in his house. And we just made it to finish the show because we were like tired. Something took the energy out of us. And then Bob goes, thank you for coming on, but I don't believe you. And you know what I said? I says, thank you for having me on. I know it's just hard to believe.
I would have said, thank you for having me on, but I don't care.
Well, I try to be.
But Phil's so polite.
I know. I mean, not so much.
He's not like us.
Email. You see, now I know what's happening. I'm starting to come to realization that this is real.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I get an email from Bob Bain. Never to contact him again. Ever have nobody that I'm affiliated with.
You gotta be kidding me.
He says, whatever you talked about, I'm hearing disembodied female voices in my home. It's scaring my kids. It's scaring me. Goodbye.
So it was out of fear.
Then he puts a warning disclaimer before the podcast that demonic voices or whatever are encoded in, and I think this guy's a crackpot too, because that's what Phil thinks. That was my attitude back in the day. I'm like, oh, come on,
This guy's just trying to conjure up like publicity and put it out
it's
there.
It's just kind of reminding me of that whole woman in Texas with the Hocus Pocus movie.
Yeah,
somebody's had their face in a glue too long. You know what I mean?
But she's a star right now. She's a major star, right?
Arguing with the kid who was sniffing glue in the classroom growing up. It's kind of like that. No,
I watched that movie. It was terrible.
It is divide and conquer.
I can't watch it because it's just I don't understand how you could redo that movie.
Hocus Pocus 2. It was the worst thing they ever did, Julia. We'll talk about that another time. Don't let my son see it. Don't let my son, her son's my son. No. Don't let my son see it.
So you've got the whole divide and conquer thing, and literally everybody that you are encountering
it gets
an
better.
Experience.
Yeah. So my publicist gets in touch with Dave Schrader. And I didn't know much about podcasts.
Yeah. We were just getting, he was
so this
just
was
getting
Twin Cities Paranormal, I think it was. And my coworkers like, Phil, this is a big show. It's a big show. So I drive to New Jersey. It's me, Ashley, the psychic, and my coworker. And the psychic goes to me, I want to talk to you after the show, with a very stern look on her face. I was like, all right, everything okay? She goes, I'll talk to you after the show. I was like, okay. So Dave Schrader's interviewing me, and then he's interviewing my coworker, and then he's interviewing the psychic. It's like a couple hour show. It was a good show. And people, of course, with all the negative comments, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not paying into that. I'm just getting into trying to tell the story, what's happening here, whether you believe it or you're not. It's happening to all of us. So the show ends with Dave Schrader. And she goes, okay, I want to sit at the table with you. So we sit across this big dining room table, and my coworker is to the left, and she's across from me. And now she has this mean look with this white complexion, and she's making two fists. And I says to my coworker, you get ready to block her if she tries to hit me, because something's wrong with her. And then she goes in this evil, I get chills thinking about this evil voice. She goes, I know everything you're doing, and I'm going to stop you.
Mm.
And I says, what are you talking about? So I grab her hand before she was going to swing at me, and she's ice cold, and her eyes were dark. Like, this is not something that's made up. Her eyes were dark. And she told me, which is impossible to know, the last page of the book, word for word. The book was not released on Amazon. The only person who knew was me, my coworker, and the editor before the book was even processed to be put out.
Mhm.
And the fact that she knew every single word was impossible. That scared the daylights out of me,
Mhm.
because now I was threatened by something that took her over.
And
Yeah.
it's
Well,
one of the people closest to you working with you on this. Basically, your
yes.
camp has been infiltrated, and it's
Yeah.
letting you know that there are no limits to what it can do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me step in and have a conversation with you.
So you know,
Yeah.
it's they're trying to make you feel vulnerable.
Yes. And so I says, I can't drive home. I'm not driving home in the dark.
I remember that
I'm
night.
paranoid. I am not. And she's sitting and she wouldn't leave his house. And then mysteriously, he gets really tired. I'm like, come on, you have to stay up with me. I'm not staying in the living room with this nut job that's going to attack me. I don't know what's wrong with her. He's like, I can't stay up. I can't keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Wow.
now she's on this lounge chair that rocks back and forth. I'm on the couch, and she's going back and forth, and like this creepy, stupid look, and she's cold. And she just keeps giggling at me. And I says to myself, it's either she took drugs, but she knows the last page of that book, which is impossible.
Yeah.
Who am I talking to?
We had to know something was up by then.
At that point, I was scared, and I knew that she could overtake me in a heartbeat, because you
Mhm.
could see, you didn't have to feel the strength. You can almost see the energy coming through her, like whatever used her. Because I remember 10 minutes ago I said that she tried to kill herself,
Yes.
and
That's
she's the
right.
one who had the flies coming out of the wool socket, the
Yeah.
baby flies.
Mm.
Okay. So now we're
And
looking at something like a
so now what
possession.
happened is I'm waiting minute by minute till the morning comes. I fall asleep in the living room. I wake up 5:30 in the morning, and she's gone. And I'm like, oh yes, the
That's
sun's
just
going to come
great.
out.
The crazy
I'm
one
out of
just
here.
left the room. Where is she? That in itself is unnerving. Never mind anything else. That's
Yeah, where
part of
the
the whole
hell you keep
factor.
your eye on the one with the dark eyes. Sorry, I've got a cold, but yeah,
I
you
mean, talk
keep your
about,
eye
and
on
I'm going
them.
to tell the listener this, and by the way, you can listen to that show and what she says on Bobby and the Far Side. I think I was his sixth show. You can listen to it, and you see what she says, this one here. So now a week goes by and I'm bugging out. I couldn't sleep for days because I'm scared now. In my nightmares, I'm scared. Like I can see her image. I'm afraid of her now.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm a big guy, but I'm afraid of her. I don't know who that was.
She was a young girl
But
too.
she was a young girl in her 20s.
Yeah.
Mm.
We go to the editor's house in Bethlehem. We're doing the book review before it would be released on Amazon. And then the editor goes, I can't do this no more. I can't do it no more. I'm out.
Mhm.
And it's, what do you mean you're out? The book's almost to be released. She goes, I can't do this. Something wrong with this. Something is just not right with this. I was like,
Mhm.
it's just my story, whether you believe or you don't. She goes, I'm being haunted. There's something in my house. She goes, I can't do it no more. I was like, just do me one favor. Just set it up so that Amazon gets it, and then you could just walk away and just give me the passwords, and you're out. Fair enough? And she says, I'll think about it.
Hmm.
So now what's happening is the artist who drew the cover slit his wrist and tried to take his life.
Hmm.
And they put him in a mental hospital. And I get this
Wow.
phone call, and I says, maybe, I says, maybe, it's either this negative thing or maybe he had problems. And
But
that
they
picture,
amplify those pre-existing conditions. They can cause them, but they can
yes.
also amplify them. How long did he remain in there? Like, did he
We're going
eventually?
back 2014, and that was the last I heard. The cover was released, and it was a creepy cover that he said something made him drew. It's the original cover of the first book with that big horsefly with the big eyes with the
Yeah.
hand coming out. And that was the end of him. That was it. No one heard
That
from
was
him
the
ever
last
since.
contact with him for you guys?
Nothing. It was it.
You're kidding me.
Psychic, once again, tried to drive her car off a bridge, and she pulled out.
Yeah, you can't blame them, right?
So you see what's happening here is that it's going after everybody
Yeah,
simultaneously.
but it doesn't just let them go because they give up and leave you guys. You know what I mean? Like they're easy marks. Did you
Yes.
hear anything about them afterwards, like just through the grapevine or anything like that? Like, did they continue to be haunted or have these infestations, or as far as you know, that's where the story ended?
They hated us. That's where it
Right.
ended.
Right.
There was nothing, but now there's nothing but hate.
Wow.
There's no talk. There's no discussion. Now it's hate.
Wow.
Now it becomes you let something into my life that we don't know
So
what
they're
it is.
still under pressure. Basically, they're still.
Yeah, because
Yeah, it
otherwise
sounds
you
like.
would have had some kind of logic kick in and know that it's
Mhm.
just because you were involved, right?
So my coworker, who was very persistent, says, no, you need to get a paranormal team to your house. Now, the only paranormal team I see was ghost hunters back in the day. I was like, paranormal team? But I did find a paranormal team that was on television, and they just happened to be in New Jersey. And I reached out to them, and the guy comes over my house, and he's like, all right. He goes, I don't feel nothing here. He goes, but if you want us to come investigate, we'll do it.
Yeah,
I
but
was like, look,
they drop off, right? A
yes,
lot of times when people come in, and I'm sure as you go on, you'll probably, attest to that. They don't want you to think there's anything there because it makes you look crazy. And then they
yes,
just go away.
yes.
Okay.
So we set it up, and a month later, he comes by with a team of like 6 people.
A month later?
Yeah, well, it kept getting
Good thing you weren't in trouble or
kicked down the
anything.
road, postponed, and
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
it was a Saturday, right? It was a Saturday.
Yes.
Now I'd never met a paranormal team before. We're going back to what, 2013, 14. I never met a paranormal team, so I was excited to meet people that do this kind of work and see if they're finding anything in my house. And so they're setting up DVRs and REM pods and K2s and spirit boxes. I'm learning now because I don't even know what this stuff is.
Well, everybody was learning at that time. There wasn't many television shows on at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then about an hour to an hour and a half in, things got haywire in this house. So one of their psychics was out in the front yard throwing up. The other one is in my downstairs bathroom looking in the mirror screaming. And I'm saying to myself, what did I do? Who did I let in my house?
Yes, the circus. Take your monkeys back. Seriously.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who did I let in my house?
Right.
And then another one is looking at me with this stupid grin on her face, like I know everything too. Like, but she didn't say that, but I'm reading her mind. Like she's just looking at me like,
yeah,
now
you're
I'm
thinking like I made this big mistake at this point, right?
Well, what was happening is we were feeding the devil, and without even realized what was happening here, because you see now that team left here all disheveled, and they were sick. Some of them were sick, and they were arguing, and who's fighting with the other psychic, and all this nonsense. All this negative energy that I talked about in the beginning of the story in the first 6 months. Well, that was happening to them in my own home. So about a week later, the lead investigator gets in touch with me. He says, I'm going to show you something. And then so he comes over, he showed me pictures of, it looked like the outline of what I would say is a demonic entity, but then you could say, well, maybe it's an optical illusion, maybe it's matrixing, because that's what I said. I said, maybe it's just the eyes trying to put the image of what we see, right? That would be the basement where my son's room was, that red room. He goes, no. You listen to me. He plays a recording. And on the recording, he's asking questions, and then you hear growls after the questions. These evil growls. He goes, I've done many cases. What's over here is not good. And what does Phil do?
It was another paranormal team.
I don't believe him. I said, you know what? Thanks. I appreciate it. But in my mind, I don't believe him. I don't believe any one of them. So a month
That's
later,
pretty
I get a whole
surreal.
paranormal team to come to my house that doesn't even know them. I tell them nothing. I just say that I think there may be something. I don't want to build psychosomatic or power of thought or
Mm,
power of suggestion.
mm, right.
So this is a team, about 5 people. Again, it was on a Saturday night. And then they're walking through the kitchen, and then she gets scratched in the ankle.
Yep.
Remember that? And
Yep.
she's like, "Ow, I get scratched." And I said, "Maybe you bumped in my furniture." No, don't tell me. Because I have to put humor behind things.
Of
Mm.
course, I understand that. Yeah,
But
I'm like that.
But what was fascinating was that their photographer in my basement caught what I seen that morning before work,
The
that
shadow.
black orb the size of a cantaloupe on film. And I says to him, "You see it?" He says, "I see it." And I felt so relieved at that point of my life.
Yeah,
I
you were
felt like,
validated.
wow,
Yeah.
now we are really dealing with something that
The
is
growls didn't give it
unexplainable.
away. I can tell you, I have about 200 to 300 hours of EVPs, and I can't tell you how many of them are growls and
Yeah.
just
Wow.
foul talking, growly talk.
Yeah.
That for me, I'm usually, yeah, that's a thing. Like, it wouldn't be kind of going, I don't believe it. Because that
Yeah.
to me is pretty unnerving. Like, my spidey
Yep.
senses go
Yeah.
off. I'm like, no, this is real.
Yeah.
Like, you
The-
just have that feeling.
That
But it's
hair on the
hard.
back
Like,
of your neck.
it's in your own home. You don't want to think there's something like that in
Right.
there. It's the last thing you want to think about. It's the last thing you want to think about, because in your mind, my family is in this house. My children are in this house. I'm in this house, and it has a long reach because so many people in your life has been affected. And it's
Yeah.
showing you, I have a long reach. There's nothing you can
Mhm.
do. I can get
Yeah.
anybody I want.
I'm stronger than you. I
Yeah, and at
control
this-
you.
It's amazing.
At this time too, it was starting to divide, a division with me and my family as well.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bickering and fighting about stupid things.
Hmm.
So it was a lot going on.
This thing went through no bound. This thing can go after anybody, anytime, at will. And so then I had other psychics that were known. I started to see them on TV. Sean Austin, Ralph Sarchi, the Demon Files. I wanted to know more. I wanted to understand more.
Mhm.
And they testified that, and not in my words, because I want to hear what people are saying and their thoughts. And this is a very dark, negative entity that can destroy and conquer all of you.
But when did you think, like when you had your validation, when did you think, okay, enough is enough of bringing people? Because after a while, I'd be like, okay, I get it. I know what's here. When do you say, no more investigating? Now let's get down to business and do something about it.
I try to conquer 2 at one time. I try to not only have teams here, but have shaman here with the teams
Okay.
going forward to remove whatever was here.
Right.
And again, I didn't know much about this whole, the spirit stuff of how it works and all that, but that's what it was, to investigate, validate, and remove. And that's exactly what we were doing. We were trying to do.
Now, just to back up 1 second, did you have any human spirits in the house, or was it strictly a demonic energy?
Whatever this thing was, he goes by the name of Chief.
Okay.
And everyone who's steps foot in this house, they see him. Now, I don't see this thing, but they see him. This is Chief, and he wants to be respected as if he's in control of everything and everybody.
Yeah.
And he sends out all his little minions. And and the way it was explained to me was, it was as if it was a demonic force that took the label of a named chief, a man with a strong presence of, this is my territory. And we learned that through so many investigations, because now what I did, I went on a mission. I wanted my house back, right?
Of course. Yeah.
There's fighting, finances are going down. I'm not feeling good anymore. Shadows are being casted upon the walls. My kids are fighting, getting into trouble. Now everything's turning into chaos, right? I'm
Yeah.
losing friends at
That's
work.
food
I'm
for
losing
them.
family, friends.
Yeah.
We're losing people that we got involved to even help us with this project. The book gets released on Amazon, and guess what? I can't walk. The day the book was released on Amazon, I could not walk. I was on the couch. I was like, Julie, I can't walk. Get me to a hospital.
Yeah.
And she drives me to a hospital, and it's as if someone took a knife and slashed my leg, and it was all ripped, everything, my whole left leg. And that was the threat from Ashley from that thing when she says, I'm going to get you. I know what you're doing. When she read the last page of the book, some of these things are just mind-blowing, that it's hard. It's so hard. Do you know why people ask me today, well, why did you have 52 paranormal teams? Psychics means remote viewers. You had Wiccan, you had priests, you had shaman, you had ministries. Why? You know why? Because I had to prove to myself, I had to prove to the world, and I had to try to remove it at the same time. That's what the mission was, and I wasn't stopping. But little did I know that every team that was coming here was feeding it. Because it was as if it wanted teams to come here because it would get stronger.
And I think that is the reason why it was happening too.
Well, because the team's engaged. I say it all the time. You know, you can go in for the evidence because you guys brought them in to get you that evidence. Therefore, it's sort of a free-for-all. People will do all kinds of different things to get that evidence. But what they're essentially doing in order to achieve that goal of getting you that evidence, they need to initiate communication. Initiating communication is initiating an invitation. So what else was being invited in? You see?
Yeah.
Acknowledgement is empowerment. Whether it's an EVP, a recorder, a ghost box, a phone app. I say it all the time. It doesn't matter what method you use. It's the intention of inviting communication. You are making an invitation. And then people go home and you guys are left with the whole gambit.
Which isn't fair.
I say this all the time. Yep. So true.
Yep. So your problems just went from here because that many paranormal teams initiating invites and communication, but you wanted it. You wanted to know. And it's no fault of your own. People don't know. They're not aware. A lot of researchers don't really think about it. Like they're here at the request of the family to get the information the family wants. In hindsight, now you're like, shit, that's a lot of invites. That's a lot of initiating communication. And these things thrive on this stuff.
Yeah.
They love it. They love it. They can attach to multiple people at a time. So to them, this is great.
And a lot of times when these teams were here, they were angry. They would come in happy and okay.
Sure.
And then you would see them change and get angry. And
well, they get angry, they get weak, they get tired, they get ornery.
It was terrible.
How many of these people now went home with attachments? Like how many were affected? Do you know?
Many.
Wow. Okay.
In fact, we have Dave Spinks here. And he picked me up from Paranormal Zone TV. I was on a Noreen show way back in the day, telling my story, and then he reached out to me. Nice guy. He wanted to come down here and then to validate what we're talking about. And well, he validated all right because about a week later, he lives out in Virginia at the time, and he says, "I think this thing came home with me." Well, one of these things came home.
One of these, because there's always more than one.
And and then I thought back to the Bob Bean show. And the guy's in Tennessee, not believing, but then this thing goes after him. Then I'm thinking back to, now here's the puzzle that I talk about in the beginning of the show. The puzzle's being put together now. If we look at all the people are like chess pawns in the game. And the game is being played by the entity. And the entity is using every one of them. And who's going to have checkmate, who's going to be erased, who's going to be eliminated, who's going to fight with who. And that's
that's the idea. It's leaving you in some sort of suspended animation, just sitting there trying to wonder. It's like always having to watch your back when you never know. You're a hostage.
Yes.
You're a hostage.
Yes. And
so what does your captor do day after day? You never know.
The years went on. I mean, and it's funny because we have the priest here from the Catholic Church in 2017.
That must have been fun. Yeah.
Well, nothing happened.
Nothing.
That figures.
Nothing. I mean, not a blink
Um,
of a bulb, not a shadow, absolutely nothing. But
mhm.
the night that
Mhm.
came around, when he was
And they
gone,
punished you,
here
right?
comes the shadows. Here
Right.
comes the blinking bulbs. Here comes the static discharge,
Mhm.
as if it was like lightning out, and you go outside and you feel like
Oh, it's
static discharge.
horrible, isn't it?
Yes.
So
And
you're
I'm
Yeah.
being
like, you
punished
are
for
kidding.
bringing
This
him
thing
in.
plays hide and seek.
Oh, it's
Right.
startling. It's startling when that happens because you know they're popping in and out. It's
Mhm.
startling.
Yes. No, that's interesting for sure. I do believe a lot of it because I've spent 2 decades doing this sort of stuff. I have helped literally hundreds, not thousands of people through the years. And of course, that's amped up because, we do so much the last 3 years. It's like doubling up with a huge success rate, the high 90s, without exaggeration. I've got a list as long as my arm of people who like just validated all of that. I truly believe that your mindset has a lot to do with it. I think like for me, because how I work with people, it depends on how the people who are helping you are working with you, but how I work
Mm.
on an average with people, I usually say, okay, it's really important now that you have the mindset that you really are in control. You have to be in control. You can't leave your foot in the door. You can't keep acknowledging it, because as long as it thinks there's a foot in the door and that there's acknowledgement, you can't close the door. So we're only half the equation. I've always told people I'm only half the equation. I've had people calling me in the middle of the night. My phone was always on, but it's just like, you're the other half of the equation. I don't live in your house, so I can't be there I
Yeah.
can't be there all the time. I've seen people clear their own homes just because they're that much in control. They've just had it. Demonic energies, interdimensional beings, human spirits. I mean, I truly believe that we are in control. Did you at any point think to yourself, no, this is my house now, I'm taking charge?
Yes.
Many of times we stop paranormal. We just says we want to live a normal life. Many of times,
Right.
out of thought, out of mind. But and I'm going to tell you and everyone else that this thing doesn't play by those rules, and this thing doesn't have a label, and no one out of the 52 paranormal teams, with one of the last ones being NESPR, Dan
Mm-hmm.
Rivera, they have the
Mm-hmm.
Annabelle doll. They did help, but this thing is it goes away for months, for months.
And
When Dan Rivera was here in July
July.
2020,
Mm-hmm.
they validated what was in this home. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he knows that because they have the Annabelle doll. They know that they
Mm.
know these cases. The
Oh, I know the team very well. They're very
it
respected.
was him, Jimmy Vitale, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
No,
Jimmy
No,
I get the
Jimmy
names of them.
Pedinito.
Eric
Pedinito.
Yeah.
Vitale.
You're thinking
Bingo.
of James.
Yeah.
You're thinking of James. Yeah.
You're talking about
Here's
Eric Vital, yeah, and Tony
here's
Spera.
what's interesting now. Okay, they came here in the morning. They interviewed me, and then they said we'll be back later on in the evening. Then they did a little bit of investigation, and then Dan had said, "I know what's going on here. I know exactly what
Dan's a
is."
good guy. They don't need to investigate. We don't investigate what we know, what we're looking for.
But here's what did happen. And again, I call things the way it is. Whether you like me,
Mm-hmm.
you don't, I don't care. I'll tell it the way it is, the way I
Yes.
tell my story, and
Mm-hmm.
why I had 52 teams come here, because I took a lot of criticism, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of not believing. And then when I tell people, I'll pay you gas money. Come on, come on. I will pay your gas money. Come to my house. That's how I was.
Such a
I had
New
that
Yorker.
demeanor of, you don't believe me? If you're a seasoned paranormal investigator and you say who you are, how much you need? Come to my, and that's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Many investigators I paid, come over here. And
Right.
this thing doesn't play by the rules of, we know what it is and it's identified. When they were here, Dan was reading prayers, and the lights in the kitchen and the living room, we were all in there around the dining room table. Every light went so bright you almost had to dim your eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt, it's gone. And we all shook our head. It's gone.
Yeah, I remember. You posted that. Yes,
It's
really, you
gone.
were so relieved and
The
excited all
next
at the
day, I
same
go to
time.
Hobby Lobby. I bought crosses. I bought the Mother Mary. I got statues
Yeah,
all over my home. I'm saying prayers, rosemary, everything. Listening
right.
to
Yeah.
holy music. The
Well, you're
home
fighting back. You're fighting back.
was ours.
You're
We
the way
took
you
the
know. Yeah.
home
You took
back.
control. Yes,
We took,
yes.
well, we thought we took the home back.
hmm
6 months was perfect. Again, everything was good. We were back to ourselves again. And then 6 months later, here comes the shadows.
Yeah.
You
And you
have
think,
to stay
well, you
on
say
it.
to yourself, oh, it's gone. It can't
And
be.
nothing,
Then you hear the whispers.
and it was nothing that we did even
No.
to
Mm.
make this stir up again. It wasn't like that. We weren't doing
Mhm.
an investigation.
Sometimes, though, I think you need to stay on it. Like even some exorcisms, if you look at the story of The Exorcist, they went through the rites of exorcism just about every day.
Wow.
Like you would need somebody clearing, like staying on you probably every day, every
Yeah,
other
and
day.
the problem that I have with that is, you have to, you have to have everybody on board. And I think we
hmm
talked about this too.
Yeah.
And you have to have every single person in the family has got to be on board if you want to do something like that. And
You
that was
do.
just not happening with this family.
Right.
It just was never going to happen.
Mhm.
The kids told me flat out, we're not, we don't want to be a part of any of this. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
we don't have, and even, my oldest doesn't live here, but he still lives here. Like
Yeah,
he's still
sure.
connected to this house. So
Absolutely.
if nobody, so
Absolutely.
it was just,
What it
It's a
can
tough
do.
decision to be in. It is a tough
yeah,
decision
Oh,
to be in. At some
yeah.
point, though, you may get tired and say, you all have to be on board, or you have to wait till all the kids to leave and say,
Well,
okay, there's just
probably
no.
us. We can be on
Here's,
board.
adults
right.
and
But here's what I can testify to.
Right.
This thing, and even Dan said it, it's a mind manipulator. And let me tell you what a
I was
mind
gonna say
manipulator
that.
is. A mind manipulator is, watch this, you ready? I'm going to go to the house and help you remove it, Phil, right? I don't know. You know what? Maybe I'm not going to go there. I have other things to do. That's what it does to
Mm.
everybody in any way, shape, or form. It switches the thought pattern of the mind of what you were intentionally going to do when you
That's
got there.
what they do, though. That's what they're all notorious for doing.
They switch things around. And
I've
your
never come
thoughts,
across one that didn't do things like that. That's why, and I always say the weakest link is usually the one that is manipulated the easiest. That's usually children.
that's everybody. In this case,
Especially
it's
children,
everybody.
because children are trusting.
Oh, yeah.
Children are easily fooled.
Yeah.
Children think they have an imaginary friend. Children are easy to threaten. We're going to hurt your
Most
parents.
definitely.
Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas adults are more rational. So we
Yes.
think, yeah, right, whatever. We're more rational. So children get targeted more often, I think. And pets.
Yeah, I
Oh,
agree.
Things jump
I
on
agree.
pets because pets can't speak for themselves. People think
No.
pets can't be possessed. You
Yeah.
kidding?
The whole
They're the only
the
ones that can't tell you they're possessed and that there's a problem.
animal situation here would be like a whole nother show. What we
Oh,
have
yeah.
know.
I almost don't last here.
what have we
Yeah.
have gone through with our pets is just, I mean, I can't even
Tell
understand
us
it.
about it. Tell us
No,
about
it's
it.
so sad.
Because I think it's a very important part of the story because it happens to people. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this story over the last couple of decades, but people still don't understand. In fact, there are some researchers who will bring their pets to
I don't like
locations
that.
that are aggressive because animals pick up easily. They can see,
Yeah.
and sometimes they get in trouble. So
Yeah.
can you touch on that a bit?
When we moved here, we had an older dog. He was about 10, and he never had any real problems until he was old.
Right.
Until we moved into this house. So I kind of like, he ended up dying, but he was old. So I
Sure.
didn't
Logic
think
tells you,
anything,
it could be
anything of
natural.
that.
Okay.
We got another dog, and we got her as a baby, and a little pit bull, and she was perfectly fine, and then out of nowhere she was getting really, really sick, and they diagnosed her with cancer, and there was no cure, and they didn't want to operate because they just didn't think it was going to work.
Right.
Okay. Then we got a rabbit. The rabbit
Well,
actually this
what happened with the rabbit was,
yeah, I
it
was
was
gonna
this
to say
Sunday.
that.
Your mom was here,
This was
and we
yeah.
were just saying,
My mom likes to pray before, after she eats and before she
Yeah.
eats it. An hour
Yeah.
later, out of nowhere, this healthy rabbit was just dead.
Wow.
We started seizure.
Wow.
Well, actually, she started to have seizures.
yeah,
Oh.
And an hour before this all even happened, Phil was downstairs, and the rabbit was fine, playing,
yeah,
laughing, like jumping all over. So after we prayed, I said to my mother, I'm like, I have to go downstairs and feed the rabbit. And I ran down there, and I knew something was wrong. It could just usually when I come down there, she's running all over the place. She knows. She
He's
was just
excited. Yeah.
corner, and I mean,
Aw.
I just couldn't even be around it. I can't really be around that. So I went upstairs,
Mm.
and everybody went down, and they told me that she was having seizures.
Hmm.
Um,
So at that point, I mean, it's what's going through your mind. Like even now, what goes through your mind with all of this? Like
what's going through my mind
what's
is
next
that
for you guys?
my something is messing with these animals.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, it's
I
Phil.
knew it I knew it after my second dog died,
Yeah.
but you know it, but you don't want to believe it, and you think like,
Sure.
oh, I'll bring another animal in the house, and
Hmm.
no,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't go well.
We have a quick question for you, and then we're going to do a station and sponsor ID.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boss's rules.
I have my
and
mic
not
on,
this
right?
one. The
I've
other
been
one.
I've been coughing and sneezing and turning off my mic, so I want to make sure it's on. Yes, Caroline Castro. Hi. She asked, "Did you research the land the house was built on?"
yes.
Yes.
Okay. What'd you
And-
find?
We found that through the research is that way back in the day, the Iroquois Indians were between the Easton and Delaware River, which we sit on this land, part of it anyway. The Iroquois lost the battle treaty, and there was a lot of bloodshed between Forks, Easton, Bethlehem,
Mm.
and we're on that focal point. We're about a quarter mile from the river, and a lot of the pictures that we have gotten here from paranormal teams from around the world look like false face masks, and I didn't know what that was up until they did
Yeah,
research.
I've had
Yeah,
some. Yeah.
unless
That's
you
where teeth
research
comes
that, you
from.
wouldn't know,
Yeah.
right?
Well, the False Face Society, like, are an elite group of indigenous, and what they do is they expel demons, and it's trained. It's family lineage stuff, and these masks is what they put on when they do it. I know I've purchased about 2 or 3 for a friend of mine who collects them in upstate New York. So that is what they are. They're pretty rare. I mean, they've been mass produced now for people who want to collect them, but the actual ones are pretty rare.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that you found those, and they just happen to expel demons. That's what they do. The
That's where
indigenous to do
chief
that.
comes from.
Yeah, and that's where
Okay.
chief, right? Synchronicities. The spirit
Yes.
entity wants to be called chief. You
Yes.
find false face masks, and these are
Yes.
used by indigenous who specialize and who are trained, lineage thing, to expel evil spirits and demonics.
Yes.
Interesting. That is
Yes.
actually very, very interesting. Wow, we're gonna have to do a station ID. Bubbles is looking at me funny.
Please, yeah.
Oh no.
Thank you. I just got to find my link now. That is such an interesting, it's just been incredible. I thought I knew everything and I knew nothing. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and myself, Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from 105.3 FM radio from the gorgeous city of New Orleans. Tonight, our guests, our fellow hosts, fellow colleagues on the UPRN network, Philip and Julia Siracusa from the Horsefly Chronicle radio. We'd like to give a shout out and thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for fully sponsoring our show from day one. Thank you for your support and your continuing sponsorship, rather. Sorry. And of course, tons and tons of thanks and gratitude for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. He's been dropping all of his records on these social websites and showing you how you can get to his music and listen to it and purchase it. So please give him a follow. Stream or listen to our archives on the platform you normally use. Please remember to subscribe and like us too.
Especially that's, subscribe and liking us bit.
Yes. Yes. Sorry about the congestion.
Yeah. That took a lot of breath for Amelia. So.
Oh my God, I'm going to faint.
And here
I've
you've
been sick
got-
for 4 days.
Got Kevin
Okay.
saying, love me some Phil and Julia.
That's cute,
Kevin
Kevin.
Hale. Oh my goodness. So where do you go from here? I mean,
Well, I'll tell you where we go. So after Dan Rivera was here, about a year ago now,
yeah.
we had True Ghost Stories come down here. And I wanted to see again, I always ask myself, is it just me seeing these things, wanted to see these things, or,
Yeah.
so they come with a whole team. It's about a year ago, right?
And
And
take a chance and let somebody new in the house.
yeah. And
Right.
let me I want you to listen to this.
Okay.
And I want the listener to clearly listen to these words. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, we may think, well, ghosts can't hurt us. Well, ghosts they can only do certain things. Well, I'm going to tell you straight out, whether you believe or not, and this will be an aired episode. I don't know when it's coming out, but I think it's their season 3.
Mhm.
One person's in my basement from True Ghost Stories. The other one is out in my driveway, and the other one is in the garage. Now, I'm sitting in the garage with one of them, right? And then one's in the backyard. A voice comes through on this walkie-talkie. Okay, come outside now. He goes, hello? Come out where? He didn't know, backyard, driveway. So he goes outside to the backyard, and she goes, I didn't call you. He goes to the driveway. The guy goes, what? I didn't call you. Let me tell you that if that doesn't creep you out, these things can talk.
Oh, yes, it can.
Now,
It's
we're not
happened in
just
this
talking
house.
about an EVP.
And
I
their
don't know
voice
how
too,
they come
right?
through on these CBs, but
Yeah.
I heard it clear as day. As like I'm talking to you.
Mhm.
Now they're tricking the team.
But
Now
and
they
they're
start-
doing it in their voices, right? Of the
Yes,
team members. Yeah,
yes,
so that's
yes.
what they do.
We didn't
That's
even
what
get
they
to the mimicking throughout the years, how it would
This thing
mimic
can
all of our
mimic
voices.
you and make believe
Yeah.
it's you to somebody else.
Mhm.
That's what it was doing to the team.
Mhm.
And
Oh, we've had it
it's
happen here. I
fascinating.
believe it 100%.
This is not a K2 meter. This is not a REM pod. This is not a
Mhm.
spirit box. This is not hello, can you hear me? This is a CB, a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Oh, they manipulate those quite
Anything.
easily.
Yeah.
A lot of teams will use walkie-talkies, even baby monitors, because they work on so many different channels that these
yeah.
things can manipulate it.
Yeah. It takes less
Fascinating.
energy for them.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. I know. It's actually very, very cool.
But,
Michelle,
I want to ask you, so when you hear that and you know it's the spirit, it's not a person, does that spirit have a shape or form that's actually doing that at that time?
No, I think they can project energy without having any form at all. I can tell you just from experiences in this house, like I've had like Wayne, just call out to me, and I come out and go, yeah, what? He's like, what? I'm like, what do you want? Because I didn't call you. Yeah, you did. No, I didn't. It's like, oh, and I'm standing like it's right here being projected in my space. Here, Wayne, here's another story Wayne's got right here. Amelia, you want to get that?
Yeah, I've got that.
Okay.
When my adult son lived with me, I heard him call to me from the back room, while at the same time, he heard me call to come to the kitchen. When we met up, neither one of us had called each other.
They're
I've had
notorious. Even spirits
experience-
can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had experience with like similar where meaning the voices, not with
Yeah.
how Wayne has it, where nobody is home and I'll hear my daughter's voice say, Mama.
There you
And I'm
go.
like, and I respond because I'm so used to it. And then it clicks. It's like, wait a minute, she's not home.
No, exactly.
So
See,
it happens,
think
especially when you're working an active case. That happens a lot to us.
I believe that. Like for us, it's happening in our homes, but we don't
Yeah.
have the situation you have, right?
No.
Where you have these strangers in, and these strangers are experiencing it in their voices. If it was your voices and your families, you could almost think, oh, maybe it's just residual. Maybe it's just something
Right.
left over because it's family. We leave imprints of our energy all over the house, right? We live here. But when
Yeah.
it's people who you don't know who are visiting and they're experiencing that in their voices, they don't have time to put like all that imprinting and such. So you have to kind of think back and say, Jesus, that's pretty amazing. But I do believe they can just actually just put out energy. They don't need to be in any sort of form at all. Here's another story. I think Tamara's mentioned this before, again with the walkie-talkies.
Yeah, Tamara says I worked as a security guard in the 90s. I was going to say 1990s. It's so far away. We used to I remember being
Back in the day.
I remember being in the clubs. I'm going to die. But in the 90s, we used to take talkies, and we would
Walkie-talkies.
have problems on certain sites with being called by spirits and causing guards not to want to work there. I remember her sharing that. Yes.
Yeah. So again, it's projection because you don't physically see anybody standing there. I think energy, you're dealing with energy in one form or another. Whatever type of entity this is, human, spirit, it's energy at this point. Energy can be in many places at one time. And so I've always been a firm believer in the fact that they can project their energy multiple places. Have you guys ever experienced something like this with sounds or names, and it feels like you're hearing it from many different directions, like it's coming in from all around you?
Yes.
That's a projection. You know, it feels like you're hearing a voice, but you're hearing it. It seems like it's just coming from everywhere all at once. It's just they just have a way where they don't have to be in any sort of physical form or shape. It just puts it right out there.
Yeah.
It could even happen dimensionally because we have so many dimensions within our own space.
Yeah.
As Joe would say, Joe's famous for the whole dimensional bleed through. No,
our annoying
I won't say
producer.
nonsense, but you know, theory.
That
Joe's
damn Joe.
theory. Yeah. So, you know, I think that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, they can be at your home. They can be at your son's home at the same time. There's no, absolutely no boundaries with them.
There's no boundaries, and it said the lead investigator's name. From True Ghost Stories, and he's like, this thing said my first and last name, last, and I heard it. I remember now this is in the living room, and you don't see, but you can feel like this dominant presence in that room.
Yeah, you know it's there.
You don't see it, but I want to say this is what did happen, and you know this is hard to digest, and this is very sad. So Paranormal Challenge back a few years ago got in touch with me, and Paranormal Challenge is part of Zach Bagans. I guess he branched off to other teams or whatever. He wasn't there, but they were, and they had a hard time believing my story, right? And you know what does Phil do? I'm like the Price is Right. Come on down. I'm like the Price is Right. You know, you're gonna call my bluff. I'm gonna bluff you back, and you're gonna come here and let's see what we talk about. So, you know, but I'm nice. I mean, I'm a nice, humble guy, and you know, but I'm very firm on this is real. You know, and they had a hard time believing it. So I get a call a couple hours before they were to come here, and the lead investigator goes, "You're not going to believe this, but we were visited last night by something that was not good."
No.
And I was like, well, you know, I don't know. He's like, well, I don't know if it's from your case or whatever, but we're going to come down. So they came down, and I have them on my Facebook Live. So I'm recording each individual and their demeanor and what they do on Paranormal Challenge, right? They're all in a good mood. They're excited to be at the Horsefly Chronicles home. They do say that the lead investigator and his girlfriend say that something visited us, and we're not sure what this thing is. It wasn't good. Okay, right? So now the investigation is taking place in my home. So at one point, the lead investigator, his demeanor was changing.
Yeah.
He was getting
Really
he was a nice guy, but he was getting very demanding. And I didn't want to step in, you know, let them do their thing. I'm observing as a homeowner. And he tells the girl to go upstairs in the living room and ask for Sarah, who was a ghost that we thought was a ghost in this house by the name of Sarah. And she's playing with a toy doll in the living room, right? Now I have surveillance cameras everywhere. And the investigation is going okay, but then it started getting edgy, and we found things. I'll get back to you. Pretty much the end of the night. But it was getting rough, where a lot of tension in the air, a lot of bickering between the team members.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard from him. Weeks go by, and I reach out to him on the phone. I was like, hey, I have something to tell you. I was like, I was going through my surveillance footage, and that girl that was in my living room, she disappeared for 12 minutes as she's calling out the ghost, Sarah, and then she
No
reappears.
way.
And I says, maybe it's a camera glitch. I was like, but I never had a camera glitch for 12 minutes because
Mhm.
That's
she's
a
not
long
there.
time.
And then she
Yeah.
reappears, and he says to me, "No, I'm not going to say any names on air, so I'm going to let
No,
that
for
stay
sure,
out.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is an ongoing case." He says, "I don't want to talk about her," and I says, "Why?" And he pretty much he says, "I'll get back to you." And then we found out a week later that well, she was accidentally murdered.
What do you mean
Now,
accidentally murdered?
now I'm not going to say names,
Right,
No.
right. It's
and
okay. It's okay.
in this field, I don't really believe in coincidence.
Not at all.
No, it
Now,
doesn't
Not
exist.
at all.
It doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Now, what the
Mm.
story is that they got into an argument about a few days after my home, and it got bad and ugly. And then he accidentally kicked the chair that she was on, and she fell back and wound up in a hospital. And
Mm.
from that, you could just pick your thoughts from that point on. And
Mm.
so he was arrested and charged and all that stuff. And I say to
Oh, it's like
myself,
a manslaughter. Yeah.
I watched the video now of the Facebook Live. They said that something was visiting them. They were happy, and I said, "Well, I really don't understand it. Like, does this have anything to do with this?" Which I hope it doesn't. But then I says to myself, "But she disappeared for 12 minutes and reappeared, and what's that mean? What does that mean?"
Yeah, right.
The big
And then when I
puzzle.
seen her picture in the obituary, my heart broke because she was such a nice, sweet person.
Mhm.
As
Sad.
an investigator, my heart broke, and I told my wife, and she goes, "No way." I was like, "Yeah." And my wife says, "No, it can't be. It can't be." And maybe look, we don't believe in coincidences because we know how this works.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I'm not going to say that was justified to this one case.
Mhm.
But I will say this to yourself and the listener that
Mhm.
the fact that he didn't believe, and the fact that they were visited the night before and the day of by something, and the fact that on the recording they're saying that something is not right, and the fact that she disappeared for 12 minutes and reappeared, well, you have to
Mm.
say to yourself at one point, is it just possible that this thing says you're
Mhm.
next? And I'm not saying that.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that, but you raised that question, right?
Phil, this is the paranormal. It's this, like, things that can't be explained. There's no real
Yeah.
science to it. It's anything is possible. Anything is possible. There's nothing definitive in this field for the most part. There's some people who get it better than, like, they get it right. They get it better than others. Some people are more knowledgeable than others. It's an ongoing research. There's a reason I think that there's so many people that develop interesting equipment. They work it. They have amazing minds that really sit there and put things together. I think this was why it's so important for people within the field, and any field really, to discuss things, to bounce ideas around. Much like what we're doing now, listening to your story and saying we're bouncing ideas around. You guys might get emails, which will give you the opportunity, obviously, to promote yourselves and how people can find you at the end of the show. But you may have people message you saying, "You know what? We went through this," or, "You know what? Have you considered this, or this?" This is what it's about. It's
Yeah.
not trying to challenge us. It's trying to help us all get an understanding of what this is all about. Because, man, there's one thing I've learned being in this field for, a couple of decades, is that I know nothing. I thought I knew so much. We just don't. We never stop learning. It keeps changing.
Yeah.
And as much as some stuff stays the same, it's never 100% the same.
No.
So if you say, is this possible? I say yes. Yes, it is very, very possible.
Anything is.
When I look back at the story that I've just explained for the last hour, and we go backwards in time, like that puzzle I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
who tried to take their lives, how many people dropped out, who was being frightened in their home, who was being circled by a horsefly at most odd times in the winter. The fact that the girl, the psychic Ashley, turned into this witch thing, whatever, I don't know what I was looking at, and then it threatened me. Now you look at the whole picture, and the whole picture tells me as a person that this thing is real. It doesn't play games. And, I'm going to talk about Michelle and Amelia. I'm going to talk about both of you right now because that couple months ago, we reached out to you and we wanted your opinion and see what your thoughts were and some help possibly, And I remember, Michelle, you saying that, you do your work together, right? And I'll never forget this. So I think it was the next day after you did your work, my wife and I were in grocery shopping. I'm like, wow, we feel good. Yeah. She's like, no way. Really? Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Well, listen now, and we felt
you guys
good.
mean a lot to me, so I'm so happy.
We felt good.
Family.
And we're like, maybe this thing is gone, Yeah. So we finished packing the grocery bags and go home, and then a few days later, the negative energy starts again.
But
it plays one
that's why
person as a pawn. You see now, when you talked about kids, the innocent of a child, you are correct because it'll go after one of my kids. And what it'll do is use that kid as a conduit and flame chaos within the family. We fight, argue, creates negative energy, creates the dark shadows, creates the whispers, and creates things that you think you sing, but that don't actually exist, but do exist on another realm. Now we're seeing things that I've never seen before. These they look like people. And I don't know I've never seen these things before. I just told my wife last week, there's somebody in the kitchen. I see them dead on. This wasn't at the corner of my eye anymore. And then they're gone.
Yeah.
So now what it did, and I want to teach everybody what I've learned. It changes form. And Dan Rivera did tell me that at one point when he was here, it changes form. We have pictures of a boy on a banister. We have pictures of a demonic looking figure, which could be whatever you want to label it as. We have pictures of a being that we can't describe. We have pictures of an evil looking animal. What are they? Well, what they are is what I would believe is this thing can change whatever it wants to be.
The manifestations. They can basically give you the illusion of seeing whatever they want you to see.
Yes.
But this is why I say that we're only half the equation, you're the other half. Julia nailed it. Everybody sort of has to be on board. When your children are a certain age, you can't say to them because they're little, saying, this is what we're going to do. Your kids are probably taller than you saying no. So it makes it really, really difficult. If there's acknowledgement, that's the biggest problem is the acknowledgement. I always tell people, you know what? Positive vibrations, they feed off negativity. It's why they project so much negativity, why they stir so much stuff up to give them that negativity to feed from. If you starve them, they cannot survive. But if you leave your foot in that door in any way, shape, or form, and give them all that acknowledgement that they want the acknowledgement, they want the attention. If you give it to them and say, oh, here you are again, then that's it. You would need somebody on you guys every 2 to 3 days.
Here's the question is why?
Easy mark.
No, but why? Why do they want the acknowledgement? I'm not trying to understand that.
Yeah, food. Because they want to be acknowledged. Acknowledgement is empowerment. It gives them power. It gives them power. Look at how once you acknowledged that orb, all of a sudden it was a game changer. Everything changed from the moment you went, I see you. I know you now. See, before you were it can manipulate everybody in the background. But once you acknowledged it, it was like, okay, Now I might as well be real because I'm here. Then all bets are off. It doesn't matter at that point.
It
I've
doesn't
seen
matter.
people, I used to have a waiting list of like almost a year and a half, 2 years, and people would message me or email me, and I'd say, I can't get to you, but I would work with them remotely through emails and just educating them. And when the time comes, or would come that I would have to, I say, okay, I can come in now. They're like, no, we're good now. Thank you, though. I'm just like, fantastic. Because I think a lot of this is a learning process, as I'm sure you guys realize, because you've lived it. You've been learning things as you go along. As you go through the process, it's an education process as well. You don't come out of this the same as you did going in.
No.
You evolve.
Yeah.
Right? You guys have evolved. And you move into a different house tomorrow, they're not going to get you a second time. You're going to be like, yeah, I freaking know what this is all about. I've been here before. I know what this feels like. I know what these signs are.
Yeah.
You won't get had again. You know what I'm saying? So, and you guys have helped people as well. So that just goes to show you've applied what you've learned.
We can help people.
I was going to say that.
And we do that, but
we can't
what's
help
in the home is blocking us.
Yes.
It's as if the shield's over the eyes. I'm seeing people now.
Right.
I've never seen people before.
No, because you open up. It opens your abilities up.
I was just going to say that.
How do you live in that situation?
Are you grounding?
Not open up? Yeah. My fear, though, in helping people is that when people reach out to you, or if you go to their home or you're in contact with them, you say you're being blocked. Is there that concern that whatever is with you is going to reach out across to these people who are reaching out to you? Do you guys have a fear of that happening?
Well, that's always a fear, but I think that the people that really have been affected by this house are the people who are getting involved with the case. So us going out and helping people in the area aren't being affected by us because they're not involved in us. That's how it's
as if this thing claimed the land, and it claims the property, and it claims all those that tied to the property,
and all those that do not believe.
And if you don't believe, look, talk about ego. I remember somebody, I think it was Bill Bean or somebody told me one time, these things have egos. When you don't believe,
they're classic narcissists.
It'll make you believe. It'll come straight to you and make you believe.
Yeah,
and I had a hard time.
It doesn't matter what you think.
That's right.
Not at all.
Right. No, it's definitely it's a journey. It's a learning process. You're still going to keep learning. You're still going to keep evolving. But I think you get to that point that you'll be able to just say, you know what, I am in complete control. I think the more you evolve, the more you see, because you've evolved. Now you're saying, I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that. Yeah. That's pretty much part of that learning process, that evolution. You may just get to a point where you could say, you know what, I've got this. I can do this. Positive vibes, positive energy. That's why you'll always, a lot of times you'll hear me say, live, love, laugh, live your best life, open your windows, dance, laugh, watch a comedy, because you're just going to starve them.
Can I just say something? We've had a person that we it's like having Joe here. We have a person that we helped that has been on our show and has often showed up in our chat room, and it was the worst thing I've ever heard of, ever seen. There was things in there that I didn't know existed, things that I saw that I would say to Michelle, like, I can't believe this is what this and this looks like. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to bring any more attention to it. But things that I didn't know existed. That's what validated, was that the research was there to show that these things existed. And she would play the Mass on loop, the Catholic High Mass in Latin. And she would put salt in her basement. This woman was an unstoppable force. That house was clean when she moved out of it.
Yeah.
She was an unstoppable force. I couldn't believe it. This lady went without sleep, and she's gifted. Yeah.
And it was a true infestation.
It was really
so bad. Many. So there were so many. Picture yourself walking through I guess the way Amelia described it was like a membrane just trying to
spider
go
webs.
through, and your
It's
feet were just like in that
it's
world.
so gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a remote viewer, you see things differently, but
Mm-hmm.
it was like walking through some
Ooh.
level of hell. It really was. And I was so afraid at first because I've never seen anything like that. Like, I've worked crime for years, and
Right? And I'm
this
like,
was an
it's all good.
this
all
was
good.
an eye-opener.
It's all good.
All I'm
But
saying
again,
is that
mindset.
her mindset, and she's
Yeah.
very gifted. She's a very gifted medium who does readings for a living. So this is someone who has to open and close doors constantly. And it was work, but it happened. So I believe it's possible for everyone after seeing what she had.
But it also falls into the fact that it shows you even the most seasoned people can be victims. The most seasoned people with the
All of
most
us.
experiences.
Yeah.
Like most experienced people. So, I think at this point it's just like all you can do at this point, I think, is just to try to keep your space as positive as possible until you can get to that point where all your kids move out. It's just like, all right, we're taking control now. You guys are all gone out of the house.
But you guys are
The
troopers, man.
little one already got a house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you guys are
right?
troopers, though. That's a lot to go through and
You
have
are.
children and grandchildren around. That's a lot. You're doing your
is.
best. Yeah.
Throughout the years, Julie and I have been able to help a lot of people by talking about a haunting. And a lot of
Absolutely.
people who were atheists and skeptics, I had them at my house too. I had a lot of atheists. I had a lot of non-believers. I wanted them here because I wanted to prove a point. And the point is, we can't explain everything. There's science not behind everything. And there's some things that are just, not only are they mind-blowing, but there are no explanations. No matter how we try to define, and we want to put a definition behind everything, sometimes nothing is nothing because it'll always be nothing but something within the mind.
Sure.
And I've seen what these things can do. And you're right. Positive thoughts, positive mind, positive spirits. We will continue to live this journey in the home as long as, till we move, which hopefully will be within the next 100 years.
It's a lot of work.
As we're on the mission, we're going to teach people
Yeah.
what we do know and what we've learned. And I've been able to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not myself, but a lot of people that this is real. This is not fake.
real.
And that's the most important principle to me, is that there's other families out there. Michelle, I've seen you on television, a lot of shows, and Amelia as well, and you do great work, and we're living the life that you're out helping people, and the most important thing is there's still people that, oh, come on, Ghost, how old are you? You have a corporate job and you believe in all this nonsense. What's wrong with you? Pick up a good book and stop the nonsense. Well, I say to myself, well, do you go to church? Yeah. Well, who do you pray to? God. Did you see him? No. Do you believe him? Yes.
I
So
use
then how
that
do you know that
metaphor.
what we're seeing is not real as well? Because we're seeing something too.
Because it's easier.
affecting us.
It's fear, right? And it's easier.
Yeah.
But I really, really, really believe that you guys being on air as with your own show, as well as guesting on other shows and several shows, that you're putting that story out there and you're helping so many more people than you know, just by sharing. You're being so generous with all of us, And
I want to say this, and I think this is a significant point as we're ending the show, right? I want to say this, that there's a lot of people out there with mental disabilities. And now I'm living this haunted life. I just wonder how many people are just being affected with those mental abilities that can be helped spiritually and that are not being helped spiritually because it's not a belief.
That's a millennial. That's a millennial issue. That's been going on since the beginning of time, right?
Yep.
That's what's going on.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to the mindset thing. I'm a big believer in mindset. I say it all the time. I practice what I preach. I truly believe that we are exceptional beings, that we've been given all the tools. The living just often, I find, don't see the signs, or they choose not to. But we share space with a whole other world out there of beings that can pop in and out of dimensions,
Yeah.
that can stay within your space, be well hidden. And based on that energy, we are powerful, and we in turn can also project energy. That's what you use poltergeist activity, psychokinesis. We can
Yeah.
project and do crazy things. If we can project energy like that and create what people look at as poltergeist activity, open and closed doors, footsteps, slamming things around, then we should be able to control other energies that are within our space to at least expel them. We just need to, I think it comes down to education. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
can I address
Spiritual
something?
help.
Because Ardua wrote something, if I can read it, because I think it's
Yeah.
really important to get this point out. Ardua, I'm not by any means judging anything, because I was raised Roman Catholic. He says, sounds like me listening to the Mass, going to Mass every day, Gregorian chants playing 24/7, the Rosary 3 to 4 times daily, and more. Remember, Annalise Michel was a devout Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
They will, I'm not saying to drop your praying. I'm not saying don't pray. My gosh, no, I pray. I believe in prayer. But sometimes that makes you the target. So
Mm-hmm.
saying that because you do that, it's not happening and it's keeping safe, is because you believe that in your mind and you feel that strongly. Again, mindset. But people who are extremely religious are attacked constantly. The Exorcist. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's different when you explain that. I just wanted to make that clear for anyone who is reading it, because I don't want people to think that, I don't know how to word this without it coming across wrong. Everybody can be a target, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whether you
Sometimes I look at
believe or
that as a
don't, and
challenge.
yeah, because I mean, some of the most well-known exorcisms have been performed on the most devout of people.
It's true.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people of faith are not necessarily the ones that can easily help you. I mean, I've worked with people. In one situation, a priest came right in the house to do a blessing, and things were flying off the refrigerator, flying off the counter
Wow.
in the kitchen. He got up and he basically did one of these. He goes, I'll be back. Never returned.
Wow.
And that was their priest, and sometimes they won't even let the priest get near the house if you have even a chance of having a blessing. So there's
Well,
another
like
one
me, I
last.
had a priest come in my house
Yeah.
when I moved here, and he would not, you know how you go to the church and you ask them for a blessing? Well, I needed this because I actually had stuff going on here. And he would not pass the damn carpet in the foyer.
So it makes it
I'm like,
tough.
are you not going
Yeah.
upstairs? No, I'm fine from here. And he's
Yeah.
blessed the water. And I'm like, no, because this is happening upstairs. I need
That's
you
it. You
upstairs.
need to come
And I
in the
ended up,
house.
I ended up doing the whole thing with my mom
Yeah, there
because
you
I
go.
couldn't get a priest to walk past the front door.
Okay, we have
Figure
one
that one out.
last question.
One last question. Gord Thomas says, how do you help the ones that are not religious and have no beliefs?
It's easily your mindset. You don't have to be religious. I'm not religious. Not that I don't have, a certain degree of belief system. 100% I have a belief system, but I'm also pretty logical in my thinking. When I say that, I mean mindset. I put myself in control, and I don't acknowledge. And if I do acknowledge, it's never out of fear. I think I was just telling a story last night. Whenever I would go to locations, a lot of times it's like Phil says, they already know what's going on. They know everything about you before you even step foot in the house. And I would have, this specific incident. I had this thing was a knocker. It would knock all the time. And I was just coming out of my ensuite, and I was just getting ready to grab my purse. And I had something knock very loud on my bedside table. And I didn't even bat an eye. I just turned around, grabbed my purse. I said, I'll see you in an hour, mister. And I left the house, and that was the end of it. It's like no emotion, nothing. I just said the words, and I just went out, and I went and I cleared a house. It's just, I don't think you necessarily have to have a staunch belief. I believe where the belief system comes in handy, whatever that may be, is what empowers you. Whatever it is that empowers you and gives you the strength to go up against whatever is there, that's what you lean on. That's not always faith for some people,
It's true.
right? It's not always faith.
No,
So-
and can I read that comment really, really quickly from
Which one?
Natalie? Because this
Oh,
fits
hold on,
right in.
I'm getting there.
This is
Okay.
why I don't have control. Natalie says, you can be an atheist and believe in the paranormal. Why do people think they are mutually exclusive? Thank you for making that comment in YouTube. Thank you.
Yes. And here's another one from
Jim Gerard. Hi,
he's
Jim.
been on the show a few times. Coming
He's an
back on
amazing
in,
guest. Yes.
December. Yes.
He said he has 3 of these written on his walls, and you could read that. It's Canadian. So I'll say it American. ZLO Nastati. It means evil spirits do not enter here. It comes from a Peruvian shaman. That might work for you guys. You might want to try that.
And that's a whole
You should
other
have him on your show.
belief system.
You should have him on your show.
He's
you guys
really
should
good.
connect with Jim.
Yeah. He's been on 3 times. He's coming back on at the end of December.
Wow.
So yeah. So with that being said, we are at the top of the hour and past the top of the hour.
Yay.
So tell everybody how to find you guys.
Okay, you can find us on, we're pretty easy to find. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, the Horsefly Chronicles Radio
Excuse me.
on Facebook.
And how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
We have a website too.
Okay.
Well, you could email me, PSIRACUSA4 You could type in the Horsefly Chronicles on Google. It'll give you the teams, the evidence, as well as YouTube. Some of the things I've talked about tonight, a toy going off by itself after ministry left is on YouTube. It's a toy dinosaur on top of a slot machine, which I cannot watch because I get the creeps. There's things on YouTube that are posted from teams, myself, my family, and all over Google. This is a noted case. This is a case that is ongoing that, is a testimony to the world that paranormal phenomenon and entities do exist. If we believe we can help you, we can try. But, again, people may say, well, if you can't help your own case, we're blocked. It's as if we are part of the energy. We are part of it. And that's the best way I could describe it. And I want to leave the show off like this. When we say that we think we know everything about what we are identifying, comes the big question mark. And the big thing is, well, the last team that was here from Paraflex, this is, well, I think you got it all wrong. Stay tuned. And I'll leave it at that. That's another show that'll be out eventually. And I think I know where they're going with that. So we must, I'll tell you this much. Michelle, maybe one day, you and Amelia, I'd love for you to come in my basement.
I would have no problem in your basement.
Not
I
at
would love
all.
it.
You're not that far, No,
I'm
You're only a
pretty
few
fearless,
hours.
Oh, I'm not saying worry. Listen, I'm not saying worry. I'm not saying fear. I'm saying I would just love it. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to leave it like that. I'm just going to leave it like that.
Yeah, I would do it.
And one day I'm going
I
to
would
build
do
a
it.
cabin in Alaska off the grid where me and my wife are going to be where nothing's around.
We're just going to live in the woods with the elementals.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
How many
see?
elementals too over there?
Come on.
It was all
Seriously.
indigenous land at one time.
Once you're
speaking.
targeted, you're always a target. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes,
That's
true.
another
Give me some
show.
high hopes. I mean,
Yeah, I
give
wish
you
I
high
could, but
hopes.
I'm 53 and it's still happening. So I don't know what to tell you. I wish I could.
And with that said, I've
Yeah.
got to close off. So thank you, everybody. We
Thank
have
you.
Come to the end of another amazing segment on the Outer Realm. Big thank you to Phil and Julia Siracusa. Just been a great show
Awesome.
and
Thank
just a lot of
you.
fun, really informative. Huge thank you to Folgers Coffee. Huge thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker. If you guys would like to contact us, please do it via email. It's just really difficult to do it any other way. So the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. I'll say it again, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Little bit of reminder here, wherever you're watching the show tonight, please subscribe, like, join, whatever the case may be. Please support us. And Show us some love, dang it. We bring you a lot of good stuff. But anyway, for next week, as promised, Tamara, we welcome back Wes Roberts. We love Wes Roberts. Yes, we do. He's going to be talking about Aleister Crowley. It's spooky month, right? So we're going to bring you some fun. Thursday night welcomes back Scott McClellan of Diablo Manor, and he'll be picking up where he left off in the last segment. And he was just like amazing the last time. And his family, if you guys remember, went down to the roots all the way back into the early 1900s, possibly 1800s, of basically the whole Midway system. I mean, just this whole carnival stuff. He used to own Carnival Diablo. Besides that, he's been an actor. He's just
Love
done
him.
amazing things. He is just delightful, and he will be back. So thank you all. Have a terrific weekend. We will see you next week. Thanks to everyone who partook. What?
Thanksgiving, Canada.
Oh, crap. Is that this weekend?
That's this weekend for
Canadian
Canada.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, no Grey Zone either this month, guys. Too busy. But yes, happy Thanksgiving to everybody in Canada who is celebrating, except for me, apparently, because I didn't damn well remember we were having it. So anyway, with all that said,
I have a wedding.
So see, there you go. She's look how excited she looks. I have a wedding.
I
Anyway,
love to dance.
I know. There we
Good
go.
night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.